Hey y'all, it's Chimdi. So I am halfway through my hairstyle, all right? I'm actually dyeing my hair right now with this L'Oreal. And I know because I have black hair that it's gonna take a second to get to the desired look. So here's the in-between brassy orange stage, which I love as well. I love every stage of my life, you know? But I wanna make this video about creating while sad, because I'm feeling sad and I'm creating. And I wanna talk about why I'm sad, why I'm still creating anyway, and just kind of process with you all. If you're on Patreon, patreon.com/chimdi, then I've already kind of told y'all a little bit about what's going on. Shout out to my Patreon producers. Thank you all so much for helping me create. If you wanna become one, I'd love that. And if you don't, or if you can't right now, that's cool too. Give this video a thumbs up and continue watching, and that support also means a lot to me. Let's talk about why I'm sad. So a lot of you may know that I quit my job almost a year ago. It was end of March, so of course we're gonna have a nice like recap proper video about that. But I quit my job a year ago, and it's been a really fun journey ever since, with its beautiful ups and downs. And I really try not to talk too much about the job itself, both because I didn't want to burn any bridges and because I wanted to be really intentional about just sharing my experience and just really emphasizing that this is what I experienced and not trying to make any larger generalizations. And then recently I found out that the company unionized, which is super exciting because there were a lot of things that, you know, didn't seem equitable. And so it was beautiful that, you know, the workers band together and created a system to look out for their own best interests, which is really exciting. And then I just learned that they fired 55 plus people, and the company's less than 200. So that's a huge amount of the staff. I think it's like a third of the staff they laid off. They said it was because of like donor stuff, but there's a good chance that it was also because of the union stuff too. And it included folks like the lovely Brilo, who, you know, has featured on this channel, just a bunch of other really dope people. And that's one thing about this job, about that job, is that I had amazing coworkers. Like the people who worked there were really, really, really cool and had a genuine deep love. I was processing with a friend and I was like, they're good and they're great. You know, like they're good people and they're great people. And I think I was surprised at how sad it made me, because it's like I haven't worked there for over a year. Like I'm close to some of the people who work there, but it's not like I'm like on regular talking basis with a lot of those people. It's just like a handful. And I left the job, right? Like I don't work there anymore, and I made it clear how I felt, you know? And so I think I'm just kind of surprised at the fact that I'm sad. And as I think about like the spiritual journey, I think about reducing suffering a lot. And so I'm like, oh, that's interesting that I'm suffering right now. And why is it that I'm suffering? And I think ultimately it comes down to, you know, reality is what it is. And it's when we reject or resist what is that we suffer. And I think that is ultimately it. Like I am sad that things are the way they are. Like I'm sad that, you know, the union wasn't able to stop all of the mass firings from happening. I'm sad that people that I know, it's different when it's like a headline, but when people that you know who are amazing and great, when they're getting laid off, that feels very personal. And I'm also sad that like I was thinking about how I would talk about this video, because I obviously left the job, and arguably like there were signs throughout all, like I read an Instagram post from somebody who was laid off, and they said like, when I joined the company, they had just finished laying off a bunch of people, and people were really like psychologically scarred by that. And that was the environment I walked into. And then here we are again, laying off a bunch of people. And I was like, so part of me was like, I guess that when people show you who they are, believe them the first time kind of thing. And I was just reflecting on how when I started working at that job, when folks would say like, yeah, you know, they tend to treat Black women especially not that great here, I was like, well, that's y'all. That's y'all's story. My story gonna be different, because I can write my own story. And even when I got up out of there, I still was not like, oh, look at this trend. I still was like, but this is just my story though. And it's just interesting, like, now that it's been years, to really just look and be like, oh wow, like you really shouldn't, I don't know if it's that you really shouldn't trust corporations, but I think especially when corporations refer to you as family, you got to be real careful, because you're not family. You are employers and employees, and at any point in time, contracts can be terminated, and you can be out on the street. And it's just a bummer when it's not just like theoretical or in a headline, but it's actually someone you know and people you know and good people, and it's a bummer. And I think it's also interesting because I am a big believer of God's plan for us and our ability to create the life we want and ultimately move closer and closer to our ideal best version of ourselves. I think of my best self as like a pure light version of Chimdi. So that's kind of what I'm always striving to become. And so I do believe that everything that we experience is brought to us to help us get further and just further grow. So it's interesting to like feel that and really do believe that, and then also feel sad when things happen that in the moment just feel sad, you know, and it's like you know intellectually like, oh yeah, good things are going to come from this, things are only going to get better, you're not going to be jobless forever, it's going to be okay. But it is a bummer, you know. So yeah, so that's kind of what was on my spirit over these last couple of days, and I've got multiple videos in the queue. I'm working on a video reflecting on remote year, and that's like a nice long video, and I've got B-roll from I've got like a year's worth of B-roll, and that's what's really holding up that video, is because I have to go through and pick out all the B-roll. I made a video about relationships that I tried editing it last night, and I literally couldn't get through it. And I think because there was like a level of I wasn't in the spirit when I was communicating, and that is so obvious to me now when I'm not in alignment with the Holy Spirit when I'm sharing anything, and I literally couldn't even get through it. I kept saying oh, I'm gonna give it to my Patreon and just let them see it, and I might literally just show them what I've cut so far and not even edit it any further and be like, y'all, I couldn't even get through it. There's some good stuff towards the end, but I just couldn't. Maybe y'all like it, but I don't know what to do with this. And I realized that actually I can create something that's more vulnerable and more honest and more earnest and more authentic. And the thought of it scared me. And that's always a good sign when you're creating, is when you're pushing yourself, to that leading edge beyond what you would be comfortable sharing, just because it's vulnerable, And I was like, okay, that's clearly the next step, because I'm doing a lot of visioning right now, and I vision my channel to be even bigger than it is now. And, you can't be the same person and have a different life. It's a different person who has that life. And so I was thinking to myself, who is the version of Chimdi who has that big of an audience? And I know it's the version of me that is more authentic, is more fearless, is more just vulnerable with you all that good stuff. So I was like, all right, we'll work on that video. So, and I also have I worked with a friend on a video around tarot, all this interesting stuff. And when it came down to it, I was like, I'm just really bummed, and it's really hard to keep chugging along when you've got this weight on you. And one thing that I'm really grateful for my spiritual journey for is that it's really helped me presence and bring awareness to how I'm feeling. And, trauma is ultimately just the feelings that overwhelmed us, so we couldn't experience it the first time. And so now, as I'm experiencing things that are shaking me up, instead of wanting to push it away and repress it, I'm like, no, let me go ahead and feel this feeling and give it space and soften into it and give it room. And that's the way it's able to work its way through me and release itself. So I thought I would share that with you all, because when I think about my channel, I want it to be about the process, the becoming, I always think of Michelle Obama when I say the word becoming, but the becoming, here is how I went from 2017 to current present day Chimdi. And if you watch the whole journey, you'll see oh wow, you see how it all happened, and it's not surprising, and it's hopefully inspiring and edifying. And part of that is you just have these ups and downs, and even as a spiritual person who's tuned into source, into that infinite joy and that infinite peace, you can still get caught up in these things that are not how you want them to be, and feel a way about it, and create through it still, and create through it authentically. And I believe it's more authentic to create with the feeling than it is to push the feeling aside and try to do what you would do anyway, which I think an older version of me would have done. And I'm very proud of myself that I'm at this point in my journey where I can just be here's what's going on, here's what I'm going through. Just took a quick glance at the camera and I see we're over 10 minutes. And I always try to have my videos be around 10 minutes so we can get a little mid-break, you know, get a little mid-break AdSense. And so I'll just wrap it up here, but I just wanted to share that I love you all and I'm thinking of you all. All my former coworkers, I love you all and I'm thinking of you all and I'm praying for you all. And I do believe so truly that amazing opportunities and amazing blessings are coming your way, and this will be like a part of the story that you will be grateful for, because I am grateful for my part of the story. But I know like it's a very different thing to quit a job because you're at the point where you can't take it anymore, or you're like strong enough and courageous enough to live in alignment. And it's another thing when, you know, that decision is forced upon you and you are laid off. And it's like, my heart is hurting, and I'm trying to be like looking on the bright side, but my heart is hurting. And yeah, I'm just thinking about y'all and sending y'all love, and I'm just really sorry, but I do know it's gonna be okay. So this message is for y'all, and it's for me, and it's for us. And if you're going through it, I love you too, praying for you too. We're gonna be okay. All right, bye.